Are you willing to continue your childhood learning as an adult? All of those lessons that you should have learned when you were a child, but for whatever reason, you did not. See, there is a wonderful, powerful lesson in giving. Generosity, love for your fellow man that I did not receive when I was a child. For whatever reasons, my parents did not receive it from their parents and they never learned it on their own. And I remember, not to put anything on them, but they're not generous people. I remember every time that somebody would come to the door, ask for something, or whenever we see someone in need, you know what they did, what most of you do. Close the door, pretend you're not home, go to the other side of the road, pretend to be on the phone. Yeah, that's what I've been taught to do. Somebody asks you for money, quick, hide. How evil. Now, don't get me wrong, you're not supposed to just open up your wallet to anyone and everyone, but you should open your wallet for someone. You should be generous towards someone. You should help somebody. Surely you can find someone who actually is in need and not a, scam artist or a con man. Someone who actually is hungry. Someone who actually is suffering. You could find someone that's really in need and do something for them, but not where I come from. Oh no. Giving? Oh, we don't do that. No. We only give money to the banks and, things that benefit us. Well, that's what I've been taught to believe. So, can you expect me to act any differently? Coming from a home like mine? Well. And so I did, until I didn't. When I started realizing that what I've been taught is morally wrong. It didn't sit well with my spirit, but I did it because that's how I was raised to do. That's how I was accustomed to. But over time, I started changing myself because I continued my childhood learning, getting the lessons I've never gotten as an adult, not by my parents' authority, but, truth be told, under the authority of God. Whether it's directly from God, or whether it's by people who follow God, or whether it's by the scripture inspired by God. Everything that's good is God. The Lord is the Spirit. He created good. If you do good, you are in His Spirit. Everyone who does good does what God says. We are a mixture of good and evil, but when you do good, you are in the Spirit of God. So you don't have to necessarily believe in God in order to do good and be with God. That's not how it works. You don't have to believe in gravity in order to be grounded to the earth. You just are. God is. So when you have your eyes open and you're seeking to learn and you're paying attention to your conscience, the Lord has given us a conscience which is aligning itself with the mind of God, so that even those who do not have Torah, as Paul said in Romans chapter 2, are for themselves Torah. Because we have a conscience that tells them what is right and what is wrong. And we all have that. Now, surely some of us have completely seared our conscience with a hot rod of iron so that we are no longer sensitive. We no longer hear the rebukes of our own conscience to discern between what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong, but we all are born with it. So if you've already grown up, you're no longer a child, surely you're messed up because your parents are flawed. They all are, we all are, but now that you have come to your senses, that you are no longer dependent on mommy to give you milk, are you continuing your growth, your childhood education? After all, your parents taught you physical things like eat, how to hold a fork, how to, clean a plate, how to dress yourself, how to brush your teeth, how to use the potty. But they might not have taught you how to be righteous, how to feed your soul, how to cleanse your mind, how to shower your spirit. Those things are of greater value than the flesh. The flesh is temporal, the spirit is eternal. So surely you should, by your own merit, by your own strength now as an adult, fill the blanks that they left. So what if they did it? Move on. Forgive and forget. They're flawed. I'm not resenting my parents. I already know who they are. Well, what's the point of that? Just resenting them for being flawed? That doesn't even make sense. Move on. Yeah, I know they did this to you. Yeah, I know they didn't do that to you. Move on. You're a grown man, you're a grown woman. Take your life in your hands and continue the growth curve. Learn and change and adapt. Draw nearer and nearer to God every day. Live according to His ways. You fall, get back up. Every day, one more degree of closeness. If yesterday you were angry at 1,000, today be angry at 900. Then 700, then 400. Before you know it, you're not going to be angry at all. If you were born to be stingy, well, you give 50 cents. Wow, that's great. Now tomorrow, why don't you give $1? The next day, why don't you give 3? Next month, why don't you give 400? Something that actually makes a difference. I remember when the first time when I gave a couple $100, that was might as well as given 5 million. That was so much for me to give. I was so nervous to give. I was like, I don't know if I can give that much. I've already given so much more than that. Because it's like a muscle. You start off at the gym with blank weights. And then you start with 1 pound, and then you go to 5 pounds, and then you go to 300 pounds. It's like anything. It's a muscle. You have to train it. Generosity. Nobody's expecting you to give 100,000 when you've never given $1. But why don't you give $1? And then grow. You've given $1, great. Now 2 years later, you're still giving $1? Something's wrong. You're not growing. If you are walking with God, growth is inevitable. It just happens. You don't have to force it. You're naturally shedding the layers of the onion of your past self. You don't have to force it. It just happens. We often say, Stephen often told me, I came from a managerial background when I had my business and I would hammer people over their head. And Stephen's like, no. You just let them be. You just be the example. You don't have to badger people. When they grow, the layers will naturally just peel off. Don't hammer people over the head. Just let them be. If they're walking with God, they're growing. If they're not walking with God, they're not. And that's really the litmus test. And that's why Yeshua said, every tree that does not bear good fruit. Well, it's impossible not to bear good fruit if you're connected to the source. The source is good. Yeshua is good. He is the vine, we are the branches. Well, if you're connected, surely you bear fruit. So that's why he said you will judge a tree by its fruit. Where's your growth? Not everybody grows at the same rate, and we don't. But where is it? Where are you growing in right now? Are you any more kinder than you were before? Are you more forgiving than you were last year? Are you more patient? More gentle? Is your vocabulary more clean? Not as much as swearing as you used to do? There has to be some tangible thing that you could measure and see the change. You don't have to put on a chart and start measuring, but something that you could see and say, wow, I am better off today than I was last year. In some area, if not more than one, but at least start. Doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be great, but it has to be something. And then it has to be consistent. You've done that? Okay, now do more. You've changed that already. Well, so is this where you stay? We have an eternal road ahead of us of continual growth. We have infinite potential. So surely we never truly get there. We just keep getting better. So why aren't you? Wake up and continue your childhood growth.